I'm going to open this SKIL Table Saw. This is a 15 amp SKIL Saw from Lowe's. We paid $143 something and change. So I don't think that's a bad deal for a table saw. I've never owned a table saw in my life. I have used a table saw, but it's been a while back. So, you know, if I was a professional using a table saw all the time, I wouldn't have bought this one. I'm sure it doesn't have the features and stuff that, you know, if I were using it all the time. But for me, I'm only using it, you know, maybe once or twice a year. So, so this is more than good enough for what I'm going to need. Gotta love the styrofoam, so I can make bulk styrofoam packing stuff everywhere. The reviews on this were really good though, so they were saying, you know, for the money you can't beat it. One guy had one like for 4 or 5 years and been fine. This is the stand, I'm assuming. The pieces to the stand. Yeah, it's definitely the stand. And then this is probably it, except for the little pieces here and there. I don't know what all that is. I don't know if I can get this out by myself. Yeah, I can get it. It's not as heavy as I thought it would be. I'll scoop the parts out. Okay, there's the saw. I actually have the saw blade already. I feel me squishing styrofoam under there. Yeah, that'll be a mess to clean up. I'm not gonna pull all that out because that'll be a mess because it's there's styrofoam everywhere. But it's got the blade on there already. This is made out of plastic, which doesn't bother me any. I mean, you know, as long as this is good and flat, and you can do your cuts and measurements okay, then that's all that matters to me. So I'm okay with that. Then you get this. Yeah, this is your fence for your cutting. And then this is all your other little pieces. Yeah. And at the very bottom, matter of fact, it's got a sign on there saying more parts under this insert. So that way you don't throw away the middle or the bottom of your stand. That's probably the top of the stand that this will actually sit on. And then, man, they got little styrofoam balls everywhere. We'll have to vacuum when this is all over with. Get the shop vac out or something. Anyway, let me show you what's in this box. This is probably the push thing and all that stuff. I don't know what they're called. Instruction book, which I'm sure I will read. I am an instruction reader. I don't mind reading instruction books at all. I know some people have a problem with reading books. I like to read instruction books myself. Plus, something I haven't used for ages is a table saw, so I might want to make sure I read the directions and don't cut my hand off. Yeah, here's there's the push thing to push your wood through. You got some measurement tools to measure out angles and stuff. This is the cover for the blade. That's the cover for the blade. It goes over top of the blade, I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe. Yeah, I think that's what that is. And then you got a wrench to take the saw off. And some pieces to put, I'm assuming, the legs together. and other little miscellaneous parts and something. Oh, and this is to prevent kickback. It holds the wood, so if the wood tries to kick back, it grabs it and keeps it from coming back on you, so it's a safety thing. So I'm going to get the directions and start kind of looking through them. And are you going to get me putting this together too, or? So I'll be back to put it together here just a few seconds for you, but it could be hours for me. I got all my parts kind of still spread out everywhere. This is actually the next day because it was getting dark the night before, so I didn't do any more. One thing they don't tell you how to attach, which is pretty self-explanatory, honestly, but it's the handle that goes on to the blade adjustment for raising it up and down, tilting an angle. They don't tell you how to put it on, but it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Let me just show you how you do it real quick. Throw this bag away. Okay. What you do is, if you look on the end, you can see there's a little Phillips connector in there. Get a Phillips screwdriver, and you basically just tighten it up with your Phillips screwdriver into that hole. Like I said, they don't tell you to do that. That's just what you got to do. Tighten it up as tight as you can get it, and then what I recommend is get a wrench if you can get in there. I don't have one small enough to get in there. You don't have to do this, but if you get a wrench in there and tighten that up really good, it won't loosen up anymore. And I'll go back and get a smaller. I've got some smaller wrenches in this, and I'll go in there and actually tighten that up to where it won't come loose. That's too wide too. So anyway, that's how you get this to hold on there. Just tighten that. If you tighten it up just as much as you can, it'll ensure that it won't back out and loosen up. So another thing, the next thing it recommends, there's a lot of adjustments and stuff to go through, and I'll do those later on my own. I'm not going to show those on camera because I've never done that kind of stuff before, so I'm sure I'll fumble through it like mad. But if you crank this all the way up, the really expensive ones have this big wheel and you just kind of and sling it. These are the guards that go over the blade to keep you get your hands in there while the blade's spinning. And you also have these kickback teeth that keeps it from kicking the wood back on you. It says to put this one on and then put these on. I found it different. I tried it out before for doing it on camera, so I decided to try it out. I couldn't get it on that way, but if you do this one first, it's a pain in the butt because they're spring-loaded. Okay, see, they're spring-loaded. They spring back. You pull this little thing out, and I'll just show you how you do it. This little spring pulls out a little pin in this little slot right there. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what it does. That pin is going to go through that hole right there. So what I did, if you hold this part, pull the pin out and just kind of bend this back like that, and it will go on, but it takes some fighting with it. And that's on. What I found though is when you lower your blade, you really can't lower your blade too much more with these on. I mean, maybe if you hold them up while you're lowering your blade, but really that's about the only thickness. I mean, that's pretty high up there. So I'm not sure if I've looked at it like 3 times just to make sure I'm doing it right, and I am. Now this will adjust up further. Maybe I just need to adjust this up further to where it's covering more of the blade. That could very well be the case too. So again, I haven't got all the adjustment parts right just yet. So anyway, that's on. These are, if you flip this handle up right here, and it's got a little pin right there, and it's got one kind of back in the back. If you get that front one hooked in right there. So lift this up, hold this little forked shaped thing, slide it back in the back, push down, and lock it in place. And it's not going to move anywhere. And then you can, that keeps you from, while you're sawing, you're not going to have it's not going to be able to get your hands in there while it's turning. So anyway, that's the biggest parts. The other parts are, and I'll put the legs together too. You've got your fence, which is pretty straightforward. You hook it on the back, you lay it down to the front, and you just push this part down to lock it in place, this handle right here. And that keeps the fence good and straight. That's where you slide your wood against. You've got the push stick, of course, to push your wood through, which it's funny, they give you this push stick, And then in the manual, they actually give you directions on how to make a wood one, which I think is funny. Why didn't you just give me a wood one in the first place, you know? So anyway, that's something I'll probably end up making as a wooden one. So this one I would think if a blade hit that, it would just tear it all to pieces. But a wooden push stick, if you accidentally get that in there, it's just going to cut it some. So it's not that big a deal. You got the miter cutting blade where you can cut angles, different angles. And then you've got your wrenches and stuff to put your blade on, which I guess I can go ahead and open them. And then I'll show you where all this stores on the case too here in just a minute. Let me just kind of get it all open and out. These are the blades for installing, the wrenches for installing your blades. And then these are the parts to install the legs and stuff, which is what I'm going to do next. And these are the rubber feet for the legs. So let me just show you real quick where you store stuff at. This stores on the side. And you notice it's like a specific shape. It slides right in here. Just like that. This, push it up, and it comes right off. This one goes it locks up in there. These teeth go right here. And everything has like little ways to latch them in place and all that stuff. I won't get that one right now. Your fence, if you come over here, goes right there. Your wrenches and an extra saw blade store on the back. So you can put a saw blade there, and you also have your wrenches. There's a little thing on the side. Right there? Or maybe the other direction. Yeah. So, everything's really compact. It's all stored together. It latches in place. So you can literally just take this and go anywhere you wanted to. I'm pretty sure this actually raises up and down. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember. Yeah. It's got an adjustment underneath. Like I said, I haven't done the adjustments yet. But anyway, that's something I'll do when I do my adjustments. So let me get ready to put these legs together and I'll show you what those look like, and I'll be right back. I figured out how to do the riving knife. I think it's called, just keep the wood split. Basically, if you come over here, raise your blade up all the way and take your cover off, which is just I'll show you real quick. Just a matter of putting your finger in this hole and picking it out and getting it out of the way. Okay, there's the release for it. So if you grab this little piece right here and pull it to where it's straight up, and then grab this and you'll see it kind of pulls that piece out, and then you can pull all the way up. And there's some pins, and you probably won't be able to see them, but there's some pins right in there that line up with holes on this knife. So if you line those up and then push this back down, it'll lock it in place. And lock it, push it all the way down to where it kind of pops. Now I should be able to put the guard on and those teeth on there without any problems. I think they had it stored lower just for storage or shipping purposes, but now it'll be fine. It'll be up, and I can actually use both pieces instead of just one, even if you're low cutting stuff. So lower your blade back down. Then we put this on. Yeah, see, they couldn't have had that stuck up there while they were shipping it, so I think that's probably one of the reasons why it wasn't there. So now let me get the parts together for my feet and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to, this is the bag of little bolts and stuff that are going to put the legs together. So I'm just going to literally take them and dump them out here on the floor. As long as I know they're all in one spot, I should be all right. Yeah, hopefully they're not greasy. They don't feel greasy, so it should be all right. These, the bigger ones, these are to mount the actual saw onto the legs or to mount them onto like a bench top or something like that. That's what these big ones are for. So I'm going to put those aside for right now. And then you've got these 4 rubber feet. They will go on the bottom of the legs so they won't scratch up whatever floor it's sitting on. So these are all labeled, and you probably cannot see with the camera, but that has a C. Can you see the C? Mm-hmm. So they're all got a stamped number in there. You got a C, an E, a D, an A for the legs, and a B for whatever part that is. So I'm just kind of going to go through this and start putting it together. It looks like you put the top part. They really, these are the instructions for putting it together from this section right here. So I'm just going to follow these directions right. This is going to be boring, me just putting screws in, but let's see.
You know, you say that about it being boring, but then people have commented that it's really helped them to watch you put together things. You put together your grill,
yeah,
and shelves for Ashley's room, and just things like that. But
if you get to a point where you get stuck, I guess it's good to have somebody maybe show you that
right,
together.
Right.
I just want to show you too, these screws, they have like a little square on the bottom of them. Those fit in these little square holes, so you don't have to have a wrench or anything to hold them in place. They'll hold itself in place. So. And I'm assuming the washers go on this side. They really don't show. Well, the washers could go on the other side because then it would break. It would be in the way of the square. So that makes sense, I guess, now that I think about it. Sometimes you got to think things through, you know. You got to say it out loud. I really needed a socket wrench. Let me go get a socket wrench and I'll be back. Okay, I got a 10 millimeter socket. Much quicker. And you don't want to tighten everything up all at one time. You just want to get it on there and leave it kind of loose to where you can do some like fiddly little adjustments to it if you need to. And so it can still move a little bit. And then, so basically I'm just going to keep doing this. These nuts too are the bolts that go on there. They have like a little rubbery piece in there, and I know you can't see that. There's a little black plastic ring like thing on there. That actually holds them in place. It's like a little lock nut on there. Just in case you've never seen one before, that's what holds these in place. So when you're doing it with your finger, you can really only go so far with your finger. You really can't tighten it anymore. That's why. Well, you could, but it's pretty hard. And so when you're doing that, make sure you put that little round, the lip like to my right over here. Make sure you put that up. When you screw it on, the flat side goes down towards the metal. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be upside down basically. Okay, so I'm going to do the next leg with C. Keep going with this, with just C and A, the two legs and the C. Doing the exact same thing I did to the other side, and I'll be back when I'm doing the next step. The next thing I'm going to do is attach the bar D, the support, to these two holes right here, and it's on the two end pieces I put. And this is why you leave them loose. If you don't, you wouldn't be able to pull these in together. So I'm going to attach these just like I did the top. And one thing, I had to look at the picture to be able to figure out where to put it at. If you put this bar right here up towards the top, that's how the picture is, at least that's how the picture is on the box. So I'm going to get this side going. Again, don't put it on too tight. And then I'm going to have to probably pull, see how it's gapped right there? I'm going to have to really pull it in to get it to be the screw in there. So I might have to work at it a little bit. And then put the washer and the nut on there. So I'm going to tighten these up, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. I found a little bit easier way of getting the screw in here. They really don't line up when they're just laying here, but if you put it up on its side, you can push down on it a little bit easier. Slides right in place. So instead of fighting with it laying on the floor, I thought about doing that a while ago, and it's like, well, it's probably going to work out good enough. And then it did, but this is just a lot easier. So I've got the one done, and now I'm just finishing up this one. And so anyway, I'm going to finish tightening this up, and I'll be back again. Next part we're going to be doing is part B, and this one's the one that has the bolt actually for bolting the saw on the top, and we still have to do the sides. So what you do is you put it like this, and it goes on top of this side brace here. So it's going to go just like that. So it's on top. And then we're going to put our screws in on the sides over here. And it's going to be a little cumbersome, but that's the fun part of putting stuff together, right? I wonder if I'm not too tight. Let me just make sure these are loose enough to where they can move. Tell right now my socket wrench is not going to go in there. It did go in there. Here's the deal though. See, it's still got a gap right there, and it probably will pull in as I tighten it up. But I don't want to tighten it up too much more right now. I really want to make sure I can get all the rest of the stuff in. So I'm going to put this one on this side. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to put this one on, and then put the other two on the other legs up here, and then I'll be ready to do the next step. Last step. These are legs E, and they're going to go on top of these. Oops, gotta go underneath. And you can tell they don't fit. So you got to really stretch to push them out. And then same procedure, just put the bolt in on this side. But you really have to push to get them to go in. I wonder if those have to go underneath. Hold on. Might make life a little easier if it goes under. This. Yeah, they go under. So if you turn it upside down like this, you'll have a lot better time of getting them in there because they just sit right on top basically. I've got all the screws in, they're not tight yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put the feet on just while I've got it upside down too. The feet are these L-shaped pieces, and they literally just go on here just like this. And you may have to tap them in place. I've just got a screwdriver. Just goes on there like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the feet on here, and I'm going to go around and tighten all the screws up, make sure that everything is tightened down really good, and then I'll be ready to put the table saw in here and let you see what the finished product looks like. All put together. So what I'm going to do is you can get your saw now. Does it go that way? These bolts, you put a washer on your bolt, and put your bolt right down there. Now I lined it up with the holes, so I knew it was lined up. You can just look above it and see. Put that in there, and just do the other ones in the back side. And then on the other side, you're going to put a washer and a nut. And then you're just going to tighten them down, and you're done. It's ready to go.